Paul, welcome to the program.
It's so great to be here. Thank you, Grant.
Well, I mean, there couldn't be a more critical time when you talk about gold, when you talk about chaos in the world, everything happening right now. I mean, it's almost hard to believe we're seeing the things were happening across the globe. I've got to believe this makes gold even more of an attractive investment.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when you say we can't believe what we're seeing, we can if we just look back a good 20, 30 years. And, you know, one point I try to tie people's memory back to was when Reagan took the White House in 81, he thought the government was too big then. $70 billion a year for the payroll for the entire government. And today it's 1.4 trillion. So if he was right that government doesn't solve problems, it creates them. We have 16 times more powerful, larger, massive government today than, 40 years ago. And so, of course, this is what we're seeing today. Governments all around the world have grown to extreme sizes with the ability to print their budgets.
Yeah. And this means, of course, for everyone out there watching, more dollars into the market, chasing too few goods is what leads to the inflation. And that's why it skyrocketed under Joe Biden. But I would also say, too, when you look at the Middle East and you look at uncertainty, because right now I think business owners don't have any certainty of where this economy is headed. Gold has stood the test of time. I mean, it has been a safe haven in uncertain times.
Yeah, that's because it's the only version of money that's actually real. And a lot of folks, will roll their eyes when they hear that and they go, well, I can't swipe out at the grocery store with gold. And I say, I know we could invent some ways to use gold in a more flexible manner. But it got left behind 53 years ago when Nixon said it was irrelevant. So no one's been developing how to make a financial world or an economy work more flexibly using such a hard asset being gold. But it's the only thing that's real. So if you're not going to use real money in your financial world, then you're not really going to have a real financial world. And when people wonder about what's the economy going to do, one more data point is that for every $11 the government prints, it gets $1 in revenue. So if your business borrowed $11 million last year, you got $1 million in sales. And every year thereafter, right? So when we look at what is GDP, how's the economy doing? Well, what's GDP? Oh, it's been growing, so I guess it's okay. It is a negative number if you back out all of the money that's been printed. So what's the economy doing in the future? What's it doing now? It's a contracting vessel since 2008. So since 2008, these data points I'm mentioning now have become true. So how's the economy doing? It's doing terrible without fake money being printed into the economy every day by the Federal Reserve and the federal government.
All right. So you add on top of that our enemies, when I would include China as part of that group, literally waging war on the U.S. dollar. I mean, China is selling dollars it's just trying to put pressure on us, while China's buying gold. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And God knows how much China is digging up out of its own soil. They're not going to report that. So they're consuming a massive amount of gold that comes up elsewhere on the planet. But who knows how much they're digging up in their own backyard. They're a massive depository of rare earth minerals. All this stuff is from outer space, not made here on the planet. It's so scarce. So when we start thinking about why would governments do that? Can't they just live in their artificial stability that they create for themselves? We all understand that if something's artificial, it is going to have a drop dead date. Yeah. At least that's human existence, right? We understand how long can a fish live out of water. You can hook it to a garden hose, but it still isn't living like a fish. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about what backstops an eventual implosion from an artificial financial world, it's got to be something real. And throughout human history, gold and silver is the only thing humans have ever considered as real money. And one other perspective, Grant, to take is you're describing this international attack on our dollar. Imagine if our own citizens understood just how difficult our government is making life for everyone else on the planet by causing inflation in their country. Being the reserve currency country means all commodities are priced in our currency. They have to get out of their currency and into the dollar to acquire aluminum and coffee and wheat and sugar. So they're getting inflated as well. They're sick of it. Of course they want to kill our currency. It's causing misery in their own country. Yeah. If our own folks understood just how severe this was, they too might be dumping dollars and things that they have secured, their savings in dollar-based assets.
Well, I guess that's what confuses me the most, is because I look at our own government. You think they would be trying to strengthen the dollar, and yet all I hear the left talk about is a digital currency and a digital this, and put the Federal Reserve on a digital currency, which, by the way, I believe this is only to track your money. They have a digital currency that's tied to some wallet someplace that you have that's run by the government, unlike crypto, but run by the government. This is just so they can track you. They're waging war on their own dollar.
So here's where the source of that conversation comes from, right? Why would a government attack its own currency? Why would it ever burn its candle? Because it went broke. Because the government lacks vision. When the baby boomers retired in 1997, you have about 60 million people at top earnings start to leave the workforce in droves. One, your economy is not going to produce like it used to, and now you have a giant cost you never had before. So since 97, the debt goes from 4 trillion to almost 36 trillion. The dollar goes from 56 cents in buying power. Today it's worth 3. The government has been printing the currency to pay its bills, to pay the country's bills. The economy isn't producing enough revenue to cover. That's the simplest way to look at it. So they didn't have any foresight back when Reagan was president or Bush was president or Clinton was president to go, oh my God, we're going to drop 70 million people from the workforce and shove them over to the cost side of our ledger.
Yeah.
What are we doing to offset that? Because truly, the strength of your economy and your country is based off the swinging hammers that are working away in your economy, the people.
Yeah.
And people talk about robotics and automation and AI, and I say, how much money does a robot spend in the economy? We've now shifted from a manufacturing-based economy to a spending economy. So if you and I aren't out there spending all of our money every day, 70% of our economy, our success, our fortitude is based off you and I spending lots of money.
All right,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And this is why I believe in a tangible asset. And it's so important to have that gold you can hold as we move through this. And I believe we are in a time of crisis. So if you like what you're hearing from Paul Stone and I over at Colonial Metals Group, I urge you to go to the website, freegoldguide.com/grant, freegoldguide.com/grant. You can call them at 800-458-7356. All the information's on your screen there. Not only is the Gold Guide great, but they'll get back in touch with you. They'll talk about what's right for you. And this is something that you need to have as part of your portfolio, because it's about protecting everything you work so hard for. I call it a portfolio protection maneuver. I don't know if that's a great way to describe it, but to me, it seems to fit.
Yeah. Here's another perspective on things. Let's say, because people try to take in, how could the government do this? Why aren't they going to stop it? They must have a plan. They couldn't allow it to happen, yada, yada, yada. So let's just imagine that instead of reading in the paper today, all of your listeners just heard the dollar's only worth 3 cents. So it would take, next time you go to the bank, get 33 $1 bills, go home, spread that out on the kitchen table. That's how many current dollars in 2024 it would take to equal the buying power of a dollar from the 50s or the 60s. Wow. $33 today, 3 cents. That's what I'm trying to make the point of. So imagine the headline this morning wasn't about Israel and Middle East and Russia and Ukraine and China and Taiwan and this crazy election process that's wrapping up soon. Imagine the headline said, oh my God, the scientists, the petroleum engineers, they counted it wrong. Yeah. There's not hundreds of years of oil in the ground. That's all water. Only 3% of the world's energy remains in the ground. Mm-hmm. Now start thinking, oh my God, what does energy support? Everything. Yeah. And we only have 6 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years of oil left in the ground. That's your dollar. Mm-hmm. Start thinking of the dollar as a resource. Isn't that an energy that's drawn upon that you purchase energy with?
Yeah.
So the energy of the dollar as a resource is utilized before you even acquire energy like gasoline or heating oil or something for your four-wheelers, kerosene, diesel, what do planes fly on? Most ships are diesel. So when you start thinking about the resource of the dollar, that 97% of it's gone, then you start to wake up to, so when things do end, mathematically speaking, from what I'm used to, or the values that are so wildly inflated in real estate and elsewhere, retreat back to, would I rather have had my money in something else before that happens? And that's why there's a conversation about gold and silver.
Yeah, and that's why so many people are taking up on that conversation too. And so I would urge people to get that freegoldguide.com/Grant and call you. All right, before I let you go, I'm going to ask you a wild question, but I've always speculated about this. So don't accuse me of Mr. Conspiracy Theory here, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Fort Knox is supposed to house all the gold that the United States has in reserve. Has anyone ever audited Fort Knox? Do we know how much gold is there?
I'm so glad you asked this because out of something that I wanted to start to illuminate attention on. You have a great question. I'm sure it was audited a long time ago when they stopped adding to it, but supposedly there's 8,500 metric tons of gold in Fort Knox. Here's a better question. Why is it just sitting there? Whose gold is that? I think it's the people's gold. I think it's our gold, the citizens of America. You start talking about the crazy government talks about tax breaks, tax incentives, a $6,000 tax credit for children and all. Just give us gold. There's $780 billion worth of gold in Fort Knox at today's spot pricing for gold. Let's start wondering about whose is that?
Yeah.
Because the federal government has no need for it. They're never going to, in my opinion, this is just an opinion. And by the way, I'm not a trained economist. I'm not a financial advisor. Colonial Metals Group is a for-profit business, but I do make the effort to come on the screen here with your show to try and help folks get a little more attention doing their own research on whether they have something to watch out for or the government's got your back and we're good to go.
Yeah.
But to me, I would like to start making the case that all of that gold, there ought to be a plan put around handing it out to the people in need.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That's real money.
Yeah. And look, that's gold that's already there. So it's not even like you're really flooding the market. I mean, it should be already accounted for in the market. So
it wouldn't bring gold's price down. It's already in existence.
They would never do that, though. You and I would know they would never do that. You know why I think one of the reasons they would never do that is because that 8,500 metric tons that's supposed to be there, I'm not sure there's 8,500 metric tons of it there. Who knows where it went, but I'm not convinced it's all there.
Oh, well, I suppose we can both be unconvinced based off the way the government positions itself toward its citizenry. Yeah. It seems to think that we're the problem.
Yeah.
Well, Reagan said it best. The government solutions are worse than their problems.
It is so very, very true. And that's where Colonial Metals comes in. And Paul Stone, it's great having you on the program. I appreciate you talking to me today.
Oh, it was great talking with you, Grant. A true American, a true patriot. Love the dialogue. Love the conversation. Thanks for having me.
You're kind, and I love what you're doing for so many people like me and patriots that want to take a hold of their finances and protect that nest egg.